Against all odds, Williams, a racing team inspired by the pain of a man who was fired from his own team, emerged from an empty warehouse in Oxfordshire to dominate the world of motorsports. But after navigating many twists and turns in their storied history and winning multiple honours, this iconic team has gone from being perennial contenders to becoming just another team on the grid. So walk with us as we discuss the intriguing rise and fall of Williams and explore what the future holds for the once dominating team. The birth of Williams Racing. The year was 1961. A teenager from South Tyneside in England approached his mum to request a loan of £80. For someone who was only 19 at the time, this was a bold demand to make. But as it turns out, his reason for requesting the loan was even more daring. This racing maniac was desperate to compete in an amateur race at Leicestershire's Mallory Park, and he was willing to go as far as borrowing money to make it happen. Once his loan was approved, he invested it all in an Austin A35. On race day, this portable family car charged through the field and looked like a real contender until it slammed into a barrier. The driver who emerged from the ruins was none other than Francis Owen Garbutt Williams, aka Frank Williams. Although the race hadn't turned out the way Frank had planned, he had no regrets. Motorsport was his first love, and nothing, not even a tragic car accident, would stop him from participating in it. Now, shortly after the accident, Frank Williams returned to motorsport in 1966, this time as the owner of a team called Frank Williams Racing Cars. With very little time to develop his own car, Frank brought a Brabham BT26 Ford built by Ron Toranac and Jack Brabham. Aside from his engineering work, Jack Brabham was a skilled driver who won 3 championships. And up until this day, he remains the first and only man to win a Formula 1 championship in a car he built by himself. Like Brabham, Frank was a jack of many trades, having worked as a former parts salesman, mechanic, driver and team manager. So he had all the elements to run an F1 team. As team boss, Frank teamed up with driver Piers Courage, and together they steered the team to Formula 1 in 1969. Now, the team had quite a number of positive moments in the 1969 season, finishing second at the Monaco and US Grand Prix. However, these little wins were drowned out by the death of Piers Courage at the 1970 Dutch Grand Prix. Courage was beyond just a driver on the team. He was a close friend of Frank Williams, and his loss expectedly affected the team. As one of the few independent teams who challenged the manufacturer heavyweight teams, Williams often ran on a small budget. At one tough point, the phone at the team's factory was disconnected due to unpaid utility bills, and Frank would have to communicate with suppliers and sponsors from a local phone booth. By 1976, the cash crunch problems got worse, and Frank was forced to sell his team to a Canadian businessman called Walter Wolf. The team rebranded as Wolf Williams Racing, and Frank initially kept his place as manager of the team. But after a run of poor performances, Frank Williams was sacked from the team he founded. Frank returned to England, and the team was rebranded as Walter Wolf Racing. Under the new management, the Walter Wolf Racing team won its debut race at the 1977 Argentine Grand Prix. News of this sudden resurgence got to Frank, who was obviously angry that a project that he had founded was now thriving without him. But rather than feeling sorry for himself, Frank picked himself up and set out to create another racing team using the proceeds from the sale of his previous team. He lined up with Patrick Head, a young, talented and forward-thinking engineer. Together, they assembled a team of 17 workers and began operating from an old carpet warehouse in Oxfordshire. This was how the Williams Grand Prix engineering team came to be. Although Frank and Patrick worked closely to birth this project, their roles on the team were explicitly different. Patrick concentrated on the engineering side of things, while Frank kept himself busy with administrative tasks, managing the day-to-day operation of the team and sourcing for sponsors. The emergence of Williams as a racing powerhouse. With the help of the other members of the engineering team like chief designer Frank Durney, Patrick Head built the FW06 for the 1978 season. This Cosworth-powered machine is officially the first ever racing car built by the Williams Racing team, and one of the first F1 cars to feature a wind tunnel. Having built what was at the time a revolutionary racing machine, the team needed to recruit a driver who could steer the car and the team to greatness. Not that the team didn't have faith in their drivers, but the lead driver, Tom Price, had died in a tragic accident. So Alan Jones, the winner of the Austrian Grand Prix in the previous season, was drafted into race for the Williams team. A malfunctioned fuel system marred Jones's first outing in a Williams car. However, he bounced back 2 races later when he finished 4th at the South African Grand Prix to earn the team's first ever points in the competition. This momentum was sustained as Jones finished 2nd at the US Grand Prix to clinch Williams' first ever podium finish. With every race, the engineering team sought to improve the performance of their car, and by the end of the 1972 season, Alan Jones placed 11th in the Drivers' Championship and Williams finished 9th in the Constructors' Championship. It was a decent finish for the team and an indication of what was yet to come. Following new modifications to the car's underside, Clay Regazzoni steered the Williams team to their maiden F1 victory at the 1979 British Grand Prix. And what better way to get it than in front of a buzzing home crowd? This set the trend for an outstanding 1980 season, where Jones clinched the driver's title and the Williams team won its first Constructors' Championship. An elated Frank described this double win by the team as the best feeling in the world. Little did he know that this was just the beginning of what would be a dominant era for Williams racing. After claiming additional Constructors and Drivers' Championships in 1981 and 1982 respectively, the Williams endured a brief spell of drought between 1983 and 1985. Then, just as they were preparing for the 1986 season, the team was hit with devastating news. Team founder and manager Frank Williams was heading back to the Nice airport from a pre-season testing event at Paul Airport when he crashed his rented Ford Sierra. The impact of the injuries he sustained left him paralysed from the neck downwards, and his wife Ginny would have to step in to stop doctors from taking him off life support. While Frank was away recuperating, the team was busy winning races on the track, which resulted in another Constructors' Championship. The presentation ceremony was an emotional scene, with Frank returning to the paddock for the first time since his freak accident, and his wife Ginny receiving the trophy on behalf of the team. With Frank now confined to the wheelchair, Patrick Head took on the responsibility of leading the team. His innovative ideas were pivotal as Williams won more honours. By 1990, the team had won 3 Drivers' Championships and 4 Constructors' titles. 2 years later, in 1992, Williams completed a clean sweep, winning both the Drivers' and Constructors' Championship. This was followed by 2 Drivers' titles and a Constructors' Championship between 1993 and 1994, thanks to the exploits of the FW15C and the FW16. Equipped with active suspension and traction control systems, the FW15C was such a dominant car, winning 15 poles in 16 races and powering the team to both the Drivers' and Constructors' titles in 1993. In terms of raw pace, this sleek machine is regarded as the most dominant Williams car of all time. Unfortunately, the FW16, which helped the team win the 1994 Constructors' Championship, wasn't exactly loved because Ayrton Senna died behind its wheel at Imola as the Williams team suffered its first casualty. Now fast forward to 1997, Williams launched the FW19, which turned out to be the fastest car on the grid at the time. The Speed Demon powered Williams' dominant performance that year as the team clinched its 100th race win in Formula 1 at the British Grand Prix. By the end of the season, they swept all the accolades on offer, winning both the Drivers' and the Constructors' Championships. It was a historic moment for a team that started out of an empty carpet warehouse and a testament to the resilience of the founder and everyone involved in the project. By the end of the decade, Williams had won 9 Constructors' and 7 Drivers' Championships. These stellar achievements were down to the genius of Frank and the engineering team, as well as the exceptional driving skills of talented drivers like Alan Jones, Kiki Rosberg, Jacques Villeneuve, Damon Hill, Alain Prost, Nelson Piquet and Nigel Mansell. Other drivers like Clay Regazzoni, Carlos Reutemann, Pablo Montoya and Ayrton Senna also deserve special mentions, because even though they never won the Drivers' Championship at Williams, their contributions helped to establish the team as perennial contenders. The struggle to retain glory. Following the 1997 season, Williams plunged into a dark era, where they struggled to replicate the dominance they enjoyed in the previous decade. The fall-off was so bad that the team didn't win a single race in the 1998 season. Many believe that this sharp decline was triggered by Renault's decision to end its full-time involvement in Formula 1. Renault had been providing engine support for Williams since 1989, and when the French manufacturer closed shop in 1997, the partnership had won 63 races, 4 drivers' titles, and 5 constructors' championships. But the issues faced by Williams at the time were beyond just an engine change. The team lost some of its best talents to rivals and struggled to put up a real title challenge until the 2003 season. Frank was pretty confident the FW25 was good enough to bring home the title. However, after some impressive performances, which saw Juan Pablo Montoya win at Monaco and Ralf Schumacher win at Nürburgring and Magny-Cours, Williams lost the title to Ferrari. Despite trying out new engines, drivers and team principles, Williams never really seemed to regain the competitive spirit that saw them dominate the 90s. Under technical director Sam Michael, Williams was plagued with reliability issues and endured the worst season in their history in 2011. Sam Michael was replaced with Mike Coughlin, and the team had a mini resurgence in 2014 and 2015. They made it to the podium a few times and had the second fastest car on the grid at some point. All of this progress was washed away by a disastrous run that saw the team score just 1 point across 2 seasons between 2019 and 2020. This unfortunate situation was further aggravated by some hefty financial losses caused by the coronavirus pandemic. Aside from its financial struggles, the team was also struggling to keep up with the rest of the grid technologically. Frank's daughter, Claire Williams, had actually been in charge of the day-to-day running of the team since 2013. Just like her father, Claire was emotionally connected to Williams, but it was clear that new investment and leadership were needed to keep the team afloat. So, after half a century of impeccable racing heritage, the Williams family reached the hard decision to sell the team to an American private investment firm called Doralton Capital. While this sale marks the end of Frank's era as founder and leader of Williams, it secures the team's continued existence and also offers a ray of hope for the future. Hope for the future. With new owners in place, sweeping changes were bound to happen. The first was the appointment of Jos Capito as team boss. The former McLaren executive opted for a driver lineup of Nicholas Latifi and George Russell. The latter consistently made it to Q3 and even finished on the podium under the rain at the Belgium Grand Prix. Williams ended the season in 8th position, but there was very little to celebrate for the team after Sir Frank Williams passed away at the age of 79 on the 26th of November 2021. Ahead of the 2022 season, George Russell moved on to greener pastures at the Mercedes F1 team, and his absence cost the team as they scored just 5 points and finished bottom of the standings. The 2023 season was much better. James Vowles was brought in from Mercedes to replace Jos Capito as team principal. This change led to an uptrend in the team's form. Alex Albon, one of the culprits for the team's poor performance in the previous season, emerged as a shining light. The Thai driver steered his FW45 to 7 top 10 finishes, earning 27 points as Williams finished 7th overall. After a difficult stint at Red Bull that caused him to stay away from the grid for a whole year, Alex Albon returned to F1 needing to prove a point, and that's exactly what he did. Thanks to some exquisite defensive driving, Albon steered the Williams back into reckoning, at least among the lower midfield teams. The contributions of James Vowles have also been immense for the team, especially his innovative ideas and the way he's restructured the team's communication and operational flow. But perhaps that shouldn't come as a surprise, considering what he achieved during his lifetime as the motorsports strategy director at Mercedes-AMG between 2010 and 2022. This coincides with the most successful period in the team's history, as they won 8 constructors' titles and 7 drivers' championships. Vowles has obviously brought all of that experience and expertise to Williams, and with him at the helm of affairs, the 9-time constructors' champions could become serious contenders again. Of course, everyone knows Formula 1 has evolved from what it used to be during Williams' golden era in the 80s and 90s. However, given its rich racing history and recent improvements, one cannot really put it past Williams to make a remarkable comeback and return to their former glory as one of F1's most storied teams. Thanks for watching, and to keep these fabulous F1 stories coming, please like and subscribe.